Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip with co-host Jeff. What's up, Jeff?
What is going on?
And tonight we've got a very special guest. We have none other than Jordan Harry. What's up, Jordan?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Took it all together. And if you don't know, is a reading coach recently into his passion, which is our passion, is cryptocurrency, blockchain, and everything else. And also, if you guys look down in the link below, he did an amazing TED Talk, has nearly 3 million views on how to read a book a day, basically speed reading, learning how to read. And I got a lot out of that, some little things that I was doing a little bit off. So we're really looking forward to tonight. You ready to get started, guys?
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
I love that intro every time.
And that's
Like
the
that?
yeah.
The longer version, Jeff's like, how long is this? You know, the former crypto twins came in here one time and they're like, that's the longest interview we've ever, the longest open we've ever seen. It was like 27 seconds. Wow. So we pared it down a little bit. It just seemed a little bit much.
Outstanding.
Hey, before we get going and jump into this conversation, we're going to have an exciting night. But before we get going, I want to do a shout out to our sponsor for bringing this video tonight. None other than Permission, permission.io. Permission is kind of cool because big tech, everybody out there monetizes your data, right? Without your knowledge, but they're making money in the background to the tune of billions, if not trillions of dollars every year. Permission.io lets you get started and allows you to really control your data. You opt in, you share what you want to share, and you get rewarded handsomely by getting and earning an ask token. Get it? Ask permission. So the ask token goes right into your wallet. It takes about maybe a minute to sign up for this thing. You install the browser plugin. An ad might pop up once in a while, a video, you watch it. Boom, you get crypto. It's pretty simple. So permission.io, check it out. It's down there. It's worthwhile. Now, let's get this party started. Now, Jordan, you're coming to us from the UK, and it's a little bit past 1 a.m. in the morning there, right? And you look like you just woke up out of bed, chipper, ready to go, ready to hit it hard.
For the day.
Yeah, why don't you talk a little bit, like tell everybody a little bit, and we'll probably get some questions later on, but tell everybody, like, how did you get, what was your entry point into crypto? How did you get started? What was the main thing that got it going?
So for me, this is the first time I'm ever answering this. So stick with me, everyone. I'm going to be as concise as possible, but this is a world premiere. So as you can all tell, I've got the British accent. Chip gave that away. Couldn't hide that. So for me, I come from a speed reading and memory training background. When I was younger, I used to have a speech impediment, so I never used to sound this posh. And my mother saw that I had a problem, and she dragged me unwillingly to speech therapy every day for many months when I was younger, until I was able to overcome my speech impediment. And so as I grew older, I realized that education lacked two things: the ability to read faster, and arguably every subject gets progressively harder, yet our reading speed is left to keep up. And number two, memory. And without going too deep, well, I guess it's late enough here, but too early, is life is a memory game. You know, the only reason Jeff knew to be here today, if it wasn't for his great technology telling him, was his memory. The only reason Chip knows who he is today is because he woke up with a value system which he could recall upon. And so our memory is so fragile, and we only realize how important it is until we start to lose it. And so from a young age, I really fell in love with the ability to learn anything faster. And so where did my love for crypto come about? Because although you might be able to see XRP millionaire, it does say in the making, was about a year ago. And it came symbiotic with the pandemic. Up to that point, crypto was the typical thing where I'd only had about Bitcoin. And that was all I knew. And me and a couple of friends, we were completely financially illiterate, realized the pandemic was about and wasn't going anywhere. And we needed to really become financially literate. And one of my friends said these 3 letters to me, XRP. Ignored them. Way too complex, way too woo-woo for me.
Woo-woo. Nice.
Exactly. You're going to hear me say that quite a lot. But you know what? I said to him, I'm going to put Forex trading aside. I'm going to put a weekend of study to learn about these three letters and why is this going to be the new financial system. And my entry was through YouTube, and it was through the Bail Bubble. And from him, it then leaked into digital asset investor, crypto area, chip yourself included, XRP bully. And then once I quote unquote mastered XRP, because of course I feel like I'm still a novice, I then found out there was a whole plethora of digital assets which are about to change many lives.
That's awesome. It's interesting. You talk about, you know, your journey with memory, with language, and then this, you know, adaption or adoption of the finance space and cryptocurrency based on blockchain, which is compartmentalized, kind of like the memory, you know, and it's, you know, keeping things going and moving. But I want to touch on one thing that you brought up that I think is so critical. You came into this space, you know, your words, you said financially illiterate, you know, and there are so many, the one thing that, and Chip and I have referenced this many times, there are so many people that have discovered the cryptocurrency space that were novices or pre-novice to the financial investment space, gravitated to it, adopted it, got into it, researched it, YouTube, reading, whatever, you know, and all of a sudden, a year in, you know, being able to feel confident that you're actually investing in yourself for your future. Like you just said, you know, you wanted to do something about your future and leverage your money. And to me, that cryptocurrency is represented so much on a global scale. Here you're sitting over in England, and we talk about people all over the world that for the first time, we're able to embrace this. You know, how does that feel a year in? How does that feel that you're now in this space, embracing the ups and downs, the speculation, the turmoils? How does it feel?
So I'll be honest with you, Jeff. I'm a Stoic. Are you familiar with Stoicism? Two of you?
I am.
And of course, anyone in the comments, anyone else familiar with Stoicism, to understand who's in the room. So as we see who else knows about Stoicism, the overarching principle about Stoicism is gravitating closer towards death, actually becoming more custom and going to the darkest parts of your mind to realize at any moment you could leave. And with that in mind, let that guide what you think, say, and do. And so when you realize that that is on the spectrum of a bad day, that's the worst that can happen, life gets pretty easy real quick. And so when we talk about risk, and of course, crypto comes with inherent risk, I realized that my risk tolerance was really put into perspective when I realized that what I was doing, I really didn't know what I wanted. And when I mean that, Jeff and Chip, was I didn't know what my dream day looked like. And so many of us are working for a better ideal. At least I hope all of us are, you know, waking up to better ourselves. But I didn't know what I was aiming for. And although it sounds common sense, it wasn't common practice. And it was a very simple exercise. I wrote down what my dream day would look like, from waking up to who I was waking up with, what supplements I was taking, the coffee shop I'd go to in Brazil, all the way to the end of the day.
Right.
And once you figure out what you want, the how, you don't have to worry too much. But crypto filled that gap. And what I found was this community brings people from all shapes, sizes together. And we speak a common language. And that's because we're all working towards a common goal. And so that's what keeps me here, but that's what also motivates me to keep educating other people about this.
Yeah, and as you teach, you also learn. And it's one of the greatest really gifts that Jeff and I have in this channel is that you get to talk, but you also get to learn. And we always say that the people that show up here are some of the smartest people around. I mean, most smarter than Jeff and I, but they show up for the dialogue, you know, and I find that to be, you know, hey, wow, Robert Morris, happy birthday. He's an OG here. What's up, Robert? I also want to do a shout out to Martin Valk if he's still here. He said, all right, I'm here, Jordan. Had to at least watch the star. And of course, he's phenomenal if you follow him. And he's just kicked off a YouTube channel. I remember at this first video, I said, you got to do more of this. You're good at it. And you've got a voice, especially on Twitter, and people need to hear you. So it's good to see you, Martin.
Keep doing
and everybody else in here. So now that the squirrel is out of the way. But anyway, what else? Most intelligent community in crypto. That is
Right
absolutely
here,
right, Sophie.
right here on the chain.
Right here on the chain. So let's talk about this whole idea of how people learn, the acceleration of learning. You know, the reading comprehension. You know, I struggled reading when I was a kid. I struggled at a lot of things about when I was a kid. You know, I always thought there was like something gravely wrong, and it turns out there probably was looking back. But you know, when you look at accelerated learning, like how do people start grabbing stuff and researching stuff, and how to, especially when we deal with digital assets,
Yeah.
how do we comprehend or start wrapping our heads around something that maybe might be above our comprehension as far as the tech is concerned? And what would you suggest, or what do you look for?
So the way I approached from, level 0 a year ago, and I don't want to put myself on a level now because I still feel like a novice, always learning.
Come
But
on, man, you gotta be a level 3 at least.
we'll say level 3. Where the end is of mastery, we don't know yet.
And it can be an infinite number.
Hey, there you go. It's an infinite number, maybe 5, 8, 9. So for me at
I
level,
like that.
I thought you would. At level 3, now where I am, is when you ever approach something, learning a new skill, you need to first decompartmentalize it. Because at first, learning Spanish, that's a skill. Well, learning Spanish could take you a lifetime. Learning to speak English as a native English speaker could take me a lifetime to master the language. My vocabulary in English grows, hopefully, every single day. So I still haven't yet learned how to speak English. So when we set ourselves targets from day one to learn a skill, it sounds common sense, and you've heard me say it before, it's not common practice. We need to decompartmentalize that skill, because learning how to invest in crypto is too big of a goal. There's just so much to that, and it's not measurable. So what you need to do is scale that down. And the best way you can do that is break that into that 80-20 principle, Pareto's law. I'm sure Jeff and Chip, you're familiar with Pareto's law?
Never heard of it.
No.
Oh, okay. It's quite familiar in the economist world. And it's this idea that 80% of the wealth is held by 20%
Gotcha.
of the richest people.
Didn't know it had a name, but yeah, okay, there you go.
So Pareto's law can be seen across all areas of our lives. If you look at your relationships with your loved ones, 80% of the problems you have comes down to the 20% of the things you do or don't do, as your wife might say. And the same with crypto. When it comes to investing in a particular digital asset, for example, XRP, you could overload yourself with the information you need to know. But what you need to do is figure out what's the 20% of the sources of the content I need to know to give me 80% of the skill set, the confidence to invest in this digital asset. Now, of course, there's a number of content creators, there's a number of sources you can go out to learn. So what I did is I looked at people who had the results I wanted. So number one, you need to decompartmentalize your goal. Look at the 20% that's going to give you the 80% of your results. Once you've figured that out, you need to find people the results that you want. And it's this common thing, finding mentors. And there's often that stereotype that your mentor needs to be someone you physically know or you pay for that service. But I would argue, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jeff and Chip, that a mentor can be someone you've never met, but there's someone you follow religiously on YouTube. I'm sure you both are mentors to many people watching right now.
Yeah, I like that concept. I believe in the mentor idea. I think it's important. Not always present, but it's something important to strive for, especially if it doesn't matter, I guess, what field you're in. But I like the concept, especially when you want to advance in a certain direction, you have to look up to and say, hey, this is the person that they've achieved what I want to achieve. I need to reach out to them and figure out how I get to that point. And for me, and it's just interesting. When I first started making YouTube videos, it was with the objective of being actively involved and knowledgeable about the crypto space. And it was within months, after I started investing in cryptocurrency and researching it, digging into it, and following people like Jungle and also DAI, Crypto Eddie. There were, you know, some people that I had been watching. I'm like, how cool would it be to one day, you know, get to talk to these people, you know? And then here we are, you know, no Jungle, you know, no Crypto Eddie. Got to meet Chip, you know, through this process, and getting to be able to meet, you know, inspirational people like yourself. You know, none of this stuff would have ever happened, you know, and you know, had I not taken that first leap of faith into making videos. It was a big deal. And just one last story, I'll let Chip go on, but it was funny. My son, this goes back a couple years ago, the first time I ever live streamed. Chip, this will be like 30 minutes, 30-minute story.
Good.
So my son's friend who lives next door was sleeping over, and he kept asking me when I'm going to start live streaming, right? He goes, you need to start live streaming. I'm like, yeah, you know, I got to be mentally prepared for it. There's a lot of orchestration into making these videos. And he goes, no, he goes, it's easy. You just put like AMA, or you just say, you know, questions with Jeff about crypto, and people are going to show up, and you'll have a live stream. And I'm like, it's not so easy. You can't just, he goes, no, he goes, let's do it tonight. I'm like, do it tonight. Right. It's like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, you know, he finally convinces me around 8 or 8:30, whatever. And we start orchestrating. I don't know if I did it that night. It might've been the next morning. I believe it was the next morning I streamed. And it was like the first time I'd ever streamed. And it was because, you know, my son, his friend, who was probably 8 years old, you know, at the time, was pushing me to start streaming. He was 8 or 9, was pushing me. And that was like the inspiration to live stream, you know, so it's kind of crazy.
Well, the kids don't have barriers, right? I mean, kids are just like full out, man. They just tell it, they say it how it is. They don't start really feeling a lot of constraints till they start getting older and deal with a lot of the stuff. But yeah, you know, funny you said that. I have a couple of Twitter lists. I work out of Twitter lists, right? And one of my Twitter lists is called mentors. And these are people that I look on really, they say something, I'm listening, and I always there's always a lot of takeaway for me. And I've got another list, which is awesome too, called Bears and Riddlers. And there's a lot of interesting folks in there. And it's not all Bears and Riddlers. It's a lot of stuff from everywhere sort of combined. So, but going back to the mentor concept, you know, I've always seen people, the way they've done stuff, constructed stuff, you know, Steve Jobs, you know, big mine since I was young. I don't know if I should say this, being really young and not having any business experience, going to art school and coming out just being an artist. And I happened to pick up a book before I jumped on a plane. And that book was called The Art of the Deal. And this was back in the 80s. And that was authored by none other than Donald Trump. And that book propelled me into 10 years later, some stuff came up at a company. People are like, we can't get this done. We can't get it done. I went back, reviewed that book, talking about how negotiations were, tiny little things that I took away from it. I go, give it to me, I'll take care of it. Give it to me, I'll take care of it. And started that negotiation. So there was sort of a long distance, and that's long before I ever did any business with the organization, with the Trump organization. And so having that, but even doing that, I was just like, well, I can't believe I'm here. I'm in Wall Street. I'm up in New York. I'm in a thing, and I'm pitching, right? And I had to like fly up there overnight to steal something from a competitor. Was ready to sign another contract. So I got my time. So that really, having those mentors is really huge. And when you said, you know, whether you know them or not, but you know, some of the biggest mentors are in this space. You know, for me, it was CKJ, because he was the one. He goes by Bullzilla now, but he was the one that said, Chip, I think you should stream. I think you should record videos. I think you should do it. Chip, do it. And I was just a guy commenting in his comments, and I was kind of nervous about it. And you know, things, Jordan, it's interesting is that when we all go back and look at the very first, whatever you did, I don't know, if you're a baker, go back. I mean, you can't go back and look at the first pie. It doesn't look the same as the pies you make now or the cakes. But if you go back and look at the first videos that we've all done, holy cow, what were we thinking? I was like, what the hell? It can be pretty interesting. That's it.
So,
mentors.
All right, mentors. So I have a quick question. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can pull this up. I believe. Is that you?
That is you.
That is that little cutester. Look at those cheeks.
Now, how old were you there? Because that's obviously from your TED Talk. But how old were you there?
Wow, Jeff is quick with this. I need to be careful.
Jeff doesn't play around, man. Jeff's like,
I must have been, I'm guessing, below the age of 10. So let's go 7.
Right on.
How
So your
awesome is
mom.
that?
So why talk? See the love that your mom had because she did something that wasn't. No kid wants to do that. No kid, but she saw something and she said, "I'm going to be relentless about this because I'm not going to let this go." Right? Because that to me is like, and this is where we all can make a difference. Kind of like what's happening in Cuba right now, what's happening in Haiti right now. But you have to be able to stand up and get a voice, and whether you can affect or not. But she's something in you and was
Chip,
part of
we're
this.
losing you. You're breaking up. You're breaking up,
Am I
Chip.
breaking up, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, in and out.
All right, go ahead. I
little
don't
bit.
know. Let's see. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know why? Because I didn't realize I was on Wi-Fi. Hang on a second.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let me just turn
So
the
definitely
Wi-Fi off.
affect-
Sorry about that.
So
Somehow I was on Wi-Fi. Probably I was doing.
All right.
Oh, you know why? Because my laptop was stuck on Wi-Fi.
Uh-huh.
No, she should be able to
Yeah,
hear
go
me fine. But anyway,
Yeah.
your mother saw something in you, and how did that influence your life? From being able to overcome some of the things you were dealing with.
Well, just like Crypto Fitter had mentioned, mums really are the best. And I can definitely speak to that. I'm a mama's boy. And so much so that I say every single day, my talents are going to give my mother the life she truly deserves. I'm also well aware my mum had me at a later age. So my mum had me at the age of 49. So I'm 24. So I was a surprise accident, as she puts it.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of power of having an older mother, because we talk about stoicism again. I experienced death from a very young age. I grew up in a family which was older. And so nothing was taken for granted. And I saw how day to day, every day I woke up on this side of the earth was literally another day in paradise. And so there's never a day, thankfully, that I can say with confidence where I have left it where I regret saying that to so-and-so. Because I live with this constant thought that at any minute, my auntie, my mother could pass away. And when you have that as your North Star, again, your actions, you don't operate from a place of feeling, because you can't just do things when you feel like doing them. And again, we talk about, accelerated learning. You have to have something that's much bigger than you. We talk about the crypto space. It is turbulent, and emotionally, you need not a distraction. However, you do need something that will ground you, not necessarily a plan B that takes you away from the crypto space, but something else that puts life into perspective. Because what we will find is 90%, I'd probably say even more, 98% of what we do in the crypto space is the process. 2% is pressing that limit or market sell button. And like for many of us who are probably waiting and holding out for the moonshots on some of our cryptos, when it comes down to selling, that feeling, and there's a psychological term for this called, and I don't want to get this wrong, anyone that knows where I'm going with this, please let me know. It is, I'm going to try and describe it. It's this idea that I'll be happy when X. And it's called something like...
the someday one day is what I call it. Someday one day.
Oh, I like that more.
Yeah, it's a someday one day. When that happens and that happened, then but someday one day doesn't happen until you make it happen today.
That's right. And the term actually came to me, but I like yours better, Chip, which is manufactured happiness. It's this idea that I'm going to create this moment which will then make me happy. I'll be happy when I sell 10% of my XRP at this price. And what you realize is the whole process, 98% of it is coming onto these live streams, meeting like-minded people when the price is down, learning about a new investor in the space that you can go follow, a new speed reading or memory technique to equip yourself with the skills to prepare yourself emotionally for when you do hit that sell button. And I promise you, when you do exit, and hopefully you don't sell everything, but everyone's circumstance is different, it doesn't stop there. And I really hope, Chip and Jeff, you'll stay in this space for eons to come. But you're going to be like Peter Pan, and that's how I see this crypto space. And that's what my mum's taught me, is my mum's going to pass. She's going to go. But believe it or not, my life is only just going to start. And it's the same with all of us, that when we exit our positions, we go from being a Peter Pan where we are perceived as old in crypto, but our real life only now begins. And that's when the fun begins. So Jeff, I hope I answered that question, you know, how
it's
my knowledge
amazing.
had that influence.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
spot on, man.
it's so outstanding. Chip, I'm trying to think back and remember at the age of 24, if I was this astute and I had everything together. And I'm looking at this again, you know, and this is just so, this is wrong zoom in. This is so awesome. You know, I mean, to think, you know, that TEDx, you know, giving a talk, how long ago was the TEDx? How old were you when you, well, get it by how long ago it was, but
yeah. So ironically, the event itself was a complete failure, whatever you term as failure. At least on paper it was, right? Because TEDx, just to give the audience a little bit of context, anyone can run a TEDx, but that TED brand comes with weight. People immediately think you're on TED. So you've shared the stage with the late Steve Jobs, Tim Cook, but that's not the case. TEDx is independently run. All you've got to do is apply, and you can run it in your local area. And by the way, anyone who wants to give a TEDx talk, I definitely recommend what you do. You type in TEDx and your location. So TEDx Pittsburgh. And then you can even refine it even more, TEDx Pittsburgh University. And they have events running every year. And as long as one of your ideas meets the theme for that year, you stand a chance of speaking. And so that's what I did. I submitted. I was one of 6. And my talk was on how to read a book a day. At this point, I hadn't taught a single person how to read a book a day. And I think I had learned how to read at 1,400 words per minute, which is 7 times faster than the average person. But I still hadn't mastered how to read a book a day. And this goes back to what Chip was actually saying earlier about being ready, about having these mentors. And what I learned was you'll never be ready. You'll either be underprepared or overprepared. And I know which one I want to be. And so when I put myself forward, I instantly signed up with a speaking coach, because at this time, I'd never given a talk in public either. At this time, hadn't taught anyone. And so we went through 6 months of speaking training. And I definitely recommend people invest in some sort of communication skills. Honestly, it's so undervalued, the ability to communicate a complex message in a very simple format. And when I arrived on the day, 6 months of hard work, refining this script, and I'd more than happy give away some presentation tips as well later on. But on the day when I showed up, 10 people, 10 there, including my ex-girlfriend, so let's say 9. 5 of them were the organizers. So no word of a lie, there was probably about 4 paying customers that came to see the event. And
however, almost 3 million people around the world got to experience that talk, and it's flawless. It's really well done, I got to say, because there it is, 2.8 million people saw that. And that's March of 2018, right? So you're talking maybe, just 3 years ago.
That's right.
And and one of the things that's amazing about it is that I actually watched it once, and I went back and watched it again right before this, because the way you speak and you communicate your message and the way you give it out, the pauses and what you're saying is very specific. There's nothing wasted in what you're saying. So it was well done. And I am just shocked that you were 21 years old when you gave that, right? Roughly 21-ish.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 2021. Thank you, Chip.
See, that's amazing. And some of the things that you're saying, you know, right now are resonating with me, and the guests are resonating with everybody. I mean, I'm watching some of the. It's great to see sort of the chat. You know, Robert Morris says, "Hey, Pittsburgh." You know, a little shout out to Pittsburgh. I went to school there. It's a great town. People, when I first got there, people were too nice to me. And I'm like, what's wrong with these people? What do they want from me? And they're just being nice. You know, I was like, oh, okay.
Come to England, we'll say sorry to you.
Right.
I like what Hans says. You see, he gives me great hope for the next generation coming up, and that's what I've been thinking also. And a lot of people approach and they're so concerned with all this chaos that's been unfolding. And I said, you got to understand there's this new generation that's out there.
Definitely.
And they get it. They understand, and they're going to propel us on to bigger and better things. And they're maintaining the momentum. They're going to deliver the world in a much better place than they received it in. And that's something I always tell people. We came to this earth. We can't deliver it to the next generation in a worse condition. Unfortunately, we see some of the things unfolding that are making people believe that we're going to deliver it in a worse condition. I say, no, you got to look. There's people out there, this next generation. I would say from your age down, I look at my son, he's 11, he's going to be 12. And I'd say between those two age groups, there's a significant number of people that are rising up, that are brilliant, that have everything on straight and moving in this right direction to take this take the leadership role, to take the passion that you had and get up on the stage and practice and invest in yourself 6 months, I think is outstanding. And then, to take it, I really, I'm thinking and looking at everything that then takes place to get more people actively involved in the cryptocurrency space, to help educate them. And it could be from young to old. There's a lot of our older generation that feel a little bit disconnected from the technology. They have some of the investment knowledge, but then yet some of the older generation, they also miss the boat on investing, and they're afraid of investing, and they're kind of along for the ride. Instead of taking charge of their investment, they're just there. Hey, I don't understand it. I don't know what's going on. It's there, and I'm just going to let it alone because I don't understand it. And so there's that generation, and then this younger generation that we want to get involved. We want them to think about their long-term survival. Cryptocurrency bringing this type of opportunity to people all over the world. So XRP, Bitcoin, all of this. What are your thoughts now? I mean, you're involved. You've been in it a year. You're loving it. You got the future XRP millionaire shirt going. So you're obviously forecasting. How do we get this message out? How do we help get more people involved, so they understand and they take a leadership role in their life?
So that's a heavy question for me to answer, but I will give it my best shot, Jeff. And I will give you my personal perspective. That's all I can do. And from my personal perspective and lived experience, I would preach that teaching, as Chip mentioned at the beginning, when you teach once, you learn twice. And the reason why is because you avoid the learning fallacy. The learning fallacy is this idea of confusing familiarization with memorization. And they're not the same. Just because, I'm familiar with Jerome Powell talking about that, is not the same as memorizing what Jerome Powell actually did say when forced to regurgitate that information. There's a clear distinction. And so when you're forced to teach someone else, whether that is turning the camera on yourself and speaking to your phone on Instagram or Twitter, or creating a YouTube channel, or creating a blog, because by the way, don't feel the social pressure that, everyone's doing YouTube and that's the only platform you can be successful at. Your medium might not be on camera. It might be with your voice, and you might have a terrible voice, or maybe you don't feel comfortable with that, but you might have the skill set and the passion to become a great copywriter that not everyone learns the same way. And so when you are forced to teach someone else, you expose gaps in your knowledge. You realize, Jeff asked me about Hedera hash graph. I actually don't know as much as I thought I did. And whilst a lot of people instantly are faced with anxiety when that moment happens, what I want every single one of you to do is get excited about forgetting. I want you to get excited about forgetting. You probably wouldn't have thought a memory coach would say that. But the reason why I say that is because when you forget, that right there is a learning lesson. That right there is a tool for you to improve your learning process. So you can go away and be like, I'm weak there. And so when you teach other people, not only do you realize what you don't know, but when you go over your material, you're forced to put your understanding into your own words. And that is a very tough skill. And so if you don't already have respect and love for people like Jeff, Chip, and all the other tremendous content creators in our space, You will when you start creating content. And as a little side benefit, and I'll finish here, is you really don't know what doors will open from just documenting the journey. And there's a key word I said there, documenting. I don't want you to create, because when you start to create, you begin to try and create the perfect piece of content. And perfect is a great mask for fear. And I don't want you to then get caught up in that fear loop of it having to be perfect. Document your journey. Speed kills when it comes to content creation. And Chip, for example, he reached out to me because I was creating content, not the best, but it's coming. But you don't know what opportunities will come your way.
Yeah, that's right. And I'd seen you on crypto Twitter, and I'd seen some of your tweets, but what it really was is you and I were on with Quincy, and you came up and asked the question, and that's the first time I heard you. So I clicked in your bio, and I'm like, started, oh, okay, I know this guy. I've seen him on Twitter. And it was like kind of just going through it. And then I started like deep diving. Oh, he's creating videos. He's a content creator. He's creating awesome videos. Like, it was so funny. The other day you had pinged me, and I was actually watching your video. I'm like, I'm watching your video right now. You put it up. And I started watching it, and you pinged me. We're kind of going back and forth. But yeah, one of the things that you allude to here is that, and maybe some of the time, I'm like sitting here like this is a masterclass right here that we're in right now, because you're dropping knowledge bombs, and you're really fortunate that this outlook you have on life at a younger age, and it's not really so much about the age, but sometimes, and this is the other thing, like what Jeff said it really well is like, yes, don't do. Everybody who's older discounts the younger generation. The younger generation does rise up, and one of the Boy Scout codes is you always leave a place better than you found it, and that you live by that motto in life. It's really great. And sometimes early on, we start cleaning up stuff and doing. What are you doing? That got to leave it better than we found it. We found it in a bad position. We got to fix it. And if more people had that sort of mentality, I do think we'd be in a better space. But what I like about what you said. You came for the Bitcoin and you stayed for the XRP is what it sounds like, because your interest was in the brand name Bitcoin, right? Yeah. But then you came in, started doing some research, started looking around. When you first started researching it and looking around, was it overwhelming? Because I know, how did it feel for you? Because you're like, oh my gosh, there's this whole world and it's massive.
So interestingly, myself, and I'm sure many of us, we struggle to remember what it was like not to know. Which makes it really hard for us to connect with an audience who are beginners. That's why I hope no one takes this away. What's up, Critical Complex? Because those people who are able to educate newcomers feel like they're doing a disservice, that they're not a deep diving researcher. But what you find is it takes a unique skill set to be able to explain complex ideas to an audience that feel overwhelmed. So please don't veer away from creating content for people who are just about to get into this space. To answer the question of how did it feel? At first, I felt like this was so obvious that why is not everyone doing it? And what I soon realized why not everyone is doing it is because crypto, unknowingly or knowingly, is scary. The financial institutions that have for so long kept these barriers up when we talk about investing use big words. And we talk about this in speed reading, that learning speed reading seems scary, that you have to have this new IQ. But what you find is these big words, purposeful or not, I'll leave that down to people's opinions, is it keeps people out. Because it feels like, well, I feel dumb. I don't understand. But when you start to learn the language, and I really do believe that money is a language, it becomes effortless. And it's like any skill, it is a habit. And when you are creating a habit, you need to start with tiny habits. So what I did in the beginning, Chip, was I set myself 2 minutes every day to learn about XRP. Now you may say, why 2 minutes? That's pointless, surely. Well, what happens is when we try to build a new habit,
I would never say, come on.
Hey, I've watched you enough, Chip. When we try to build a new habit, there's a resistance to activity. And it happens usually within the first 3 minutes. So what happens within the first 3 minutes, most people want to move away from this because our brain, our hippocampus, here we go, geek alert, our hippocampus wants us to go do something more pleasurable. Our brain doesn't enjoy us going through pain. So when we're forced to sit down and we're forced to examine the board of directors for Ripple, which really isn't exciting or sexy or cool, our brain is thinking of 101 other things that we would enjoy and prefer doing. And what we all need to do is we need to exercise the muscle and break through that resistance of activity that usually happens within the first 3 minutes. If you can get past the first 3 minutes, you often find you'll start to get into what is called a flow state. But what happens is we don't allow ourselves to struggle with the material long enough to get past that resistance phase. So this whole idea of tiny habits, and I use 2 minutes as an example, is one, it puts you into that resistance phase. So you know you're working with time as opposed to against it. So, cool. You're starting to negotiate with your conscious, because whether you know it or not, every single day we're negotiating with our conscience. Our conscience is telling us things we should and shouldn't do. And most of the time we know we shouldn't eat all the Indian food when we order it for like 2 people, because we know we're going to feel terrible afterwards. We do it anyway. We feel terrible at the end. And we have a number of these loops. Sorry, Jeff, what you say?
I said, and the next day.
And the next day.
Yes.
Yeah, we wonder why we don't listen to our conscience enough. But what we have to do is we have to negotiate with our conscience. So we have to say, look, I hear you, conscience. I know we should be examining the board of directors. So how about this? We do a fair trade-off. We're going to sit here for 2 minutes. Your conscience will be like, okay, 2 minutes. That's easy. So you're already now dealing with that resistance to activity. Number 2 is the idea of tiny habits is its consistency. You'll hear this whole idea that building a habit takes 21 days, 60 days, 5 months. The more articles you read online, the more overwhelmed you'll feel about how long it takes to build a habit. And what I generally believe is a habit until you stop doing it. But what we need to understand is we need to protect our habits, because one day those habits will one day protect us. And so that 2 minutes is such a small task that hopefully you will do this every single day. And if anyone says they don't have 2 minutes in a day, you're lying. You brush your teeth. You can learn about XRP, HBAR, XLM whilst you're brushing your teeth. And finally, the other powerful aspect of tiny habits, especially when you're just learning about crypto or you want to learn more, is 1, you're reducing that resistance. 2, you're building consistency. But also number 3 is what you do is after the 2 minutes is up, you'll find that, oh, I want to keep going. I'm enjoying this. And you might go for 4 minutes, 8 minutes, 10. But at the end of the day, you can stop at the 2 minute mark. It is optional if you wish to go on. The key thing is that consistency, and you get past that resistance to activity.
That's amazing. I mean, when you think about it, and when you work out, or if you're running, or whatever you do, most of the things that you get involved in, it becomes a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at some of these ultra athletes. I have no desire to run a marathon, and I know a lot of people that have run marathons. I have no desire to run a half marathon, but I've run a lot of races that are 10 miles. I've run 7 miles. I've run 8 miles. I've gotten into, the extreme, mud races and all of that. And I enjoy going through the pain of it. But what's funny about it, I can't physically go out and just run. There's no passion, and it's a mental thing. Working out in the morning is a mental thing. It's like, hey, I get up early, time to work out. Like, oh, I don't feel like doing lower, I don't want to do lower body. I just want to do upper body. And you get into this negative routine, and it's a mental state, and then, so you can attribute that to what you're talking about from an educational perspective. I took my son when he was 6 years old, ran his first 5K. And my theory was anybody can run for 30 seconds, including a 6-year-old child within reason, because then you have to stagger. You don't want to have a 6-year-old child drop, and then say, I can't do this, but you have to do it you know, incrementally, but you can run for 30 seconds, even if it's slow. You can walk for a minute. You can walk for, you know, 5 minutes, then you can run for 30 seconds, walk for a minute, run for 30 seconds, and you break it down, compartmentalize it. I did the same thing with my next door neighbor. He never ran ever. And he was registered for the world run. And I said, I've always wanted to do the world run. I said, and I said, when are you doing? He said, this morning. It was like really early. I said, I'm going with you. And we drove down there, you know, and I registered on the spot, and he'd never run before. I said, don't worry, you're going to run with me, and we're going to go at least 4 miles. Right? And I said, we're going to run 30 seconds on 1 minute. And then we're going to flip it around a little bit. But there's no way you can't run for 30 seconds, right? 30 seconds is easy. Just take it easy, follow the pace. We ran 31s, 31s, 31s. You know, sometimes we went a minute, then we backed off and walked a minute, and I kept the momentum going. 4.1 miles that he went before the car timed us out. You know, in the world, the car pace cars after you. And it became a mental state. And like you said, you break it down incrementally, and it's amazing. Education, mind over matter. That I'm so fired up right now. Just hearing what you said, you know, the brain is like churning. It's great.
Yeah, you know, it's so true what you say, Jeff. I did a 5K a couple years back, and I remember going. It was just a 5K, but it was early morning, and then, you know, we went with my family was in. We all went and participated. It was the turkey run, and on Thanksgiving Day, and I was getting winded at the end. I'm like, man, I'm starting to get winded. What's going on? Maybe my pace was too fast initially. And there's a guy in front of me, and he is so consistent. He's about 78 years old, and this man is on fire. And I'm like, I cannot let this guy beat me. So I had to just get in my head and go like, I got to figure this out. I'm like, because he was just he was an amazing runner. He was so solid. And you know, sometimes, you know, the things that motivate us, the things that, you know, get in, but ultimately what it is ourselves, right? You got to start thinking that the mental. You watch any sport, you know, you watch. Unfortunately, sorry about what happened on Sunday. You know, England, you know, losing the Euro Cup, man. I was rooting for England the whole time, but, you know, I saw a couple mistakes happen really in the second, that they started pulling back. They started going into defensive mode, and they just missed a couple key things. But, you know, I always say, no matter what, I don't care who wins, whether you win or you lose, penalty kicks is one of the most horrid ways to really lose a game. I'd rather lose time expires. Okay, the winner, you know, but losing that way, because it's not fair to the individuals, the amount of pressure it's on somebody, the mental state, they've hit that every single time. They've done it 1,000 times, and this one time they missed, the one time they were on, you know, or there's a save, or they guess it. And this is the kind of things you have to deal with, is the amount of pressure. Rob had a nice quote in here. Rob McDermott said, I've told my teams for years, none of the work is hard work, but doing the work well and consistently is hard. And I will second that. That is so spot on there, Rob.
Really amazing. I like that. Hey, so Jordan, can you give us one secret here?
Secret.
This secret. Hang on. This is good stuff. Just amongst this small group of us right here, just between the three of us and everybody listening and watching. But something on memorization.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
you know, I want to forget some things. You know, I've already forgotten a few things, but no, you know, that's what. Did you say that was the first step to memorization or remembering? No, give us something like, what would like some of the first steps be that you feel that are important? You know, speed reading is a whole other, you know, important topic too, but the memorization part,
So two things. And one, although you joked about it just then, Jeff, about forgetting, I've been also, you know, monitoring and speed reading the comments, is many of us have painful memories, and believe it or not, our brains don't actually want to recall those painful memories. Our brains actually are really smart. They want to protect us. And if anyone really is interested who has gone through some sort of trauma, and I know this might not be the space or time to talk about that, is I definitely recommend you look into lateral eye movement training. Lateral eye movement training. If you are struggling to overcome a painful memory experience, passing of a loved one, I study a lot about psychoanalysis and also combining that with neuroscience. Lateral eye movement has proven a lot of successful results for not giving you the ability to forget the painful moments, but allowing you to create new memories. It's fascinating. So hopefully that's already one little secret, which I actually don't talk about enough, is how to create new memories to compensate for those painful emotions attached. So I hope that helps some of the viewers. On a more lighter note, how
heavy
to
stuff,
remember.
man. I'm like, that's heavy stuff. I got to figure out where to put that. Hang on a second. I got to make some space for that. That's good stuff, though. It really is.
Put that into your blockchain up there.
Yeah,
I
put
like
it in the
that.
blockchain. Yeah, yeah,
I'm always living between order and chaos. Jordan Peterson, he taught me best.
yeah. Right. I love Jordan Peterson.
I'm glad we speak the same language. And so for everyone who's watching, keeping it super applicable, how to retain information, complex information that you want to be able to recall in the future. And the number one way that I want everyone to go and learn more about is something called the memory palace, otherwise known as the loci method. Are you two familiar with the memory palace?
No.
Yeah, I know the memory palace. Yeah, I mean, I know I've actually used it, and I actually had to go on stage. I actually used the memory palace, which is really what got me through that, because I was struggling, and you get up there and there's pressure, and you've got to deliver something, and you're on, and there's a whole audience in front of you, and you're like, at one point, I forgot what I actually blanked out, completely blanked, almost to the point of where I didn't know where I was. I didn't say anything. No one knew that I had blanked out. But I went back to the memory palace. Wait a minute, where am I? Okay, I'm in the hallway by the. If you want to go into the memory palace a little bit, it's a really phenomenal technique. You want to just talk a little bit?
Be my pleasure. Be my pleasure. And Chip, you brought up a really good point. That stress impairs our memory. That's why you'll find that when you give a public talk or when you're in a stressful situation, such as you get a parking ticket, you then punch the wall and you break your hand. But in that moment, it seems completely logical to punch the wall. But upon reflection, you're like, what an idiot. Because what happens is when we are faced with stress, our prefrontal cortex, which is our control center, it makes sense of all the stimulus around us. That switches off when we experience cortisol, which is the stress hormone that's released in our body. So what we find is it's great having a good memory, but are you able to fall back onto that memory under stress? And there's a great saying, I love mixed martial arts, that you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your training. So you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. And so what I'd love for everyone to do, if you are really serious about improving your memory, for one, improving your ability to learn about the crypto space, but also two, improving your memory skills, learning a new skill full stop, actually offsets brain diseases. So there's so much geekiness in me that I have to keep in.
But man, let it go. Let it run, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And of course, it goes without saying, anyone that wants to pick my geeky brain after this, feel free to connect. But what we'll talk about is the memory palace right now. Is create, I like that, stress crypto. What is that thing?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, what is that? Stress. What are you talking about? I
was gonna say,
you ever watch those charts? Yeah.
So one thing to help you with this unknown thing called stress, if you're in crypto, is the memory palace. And the memory palace is where you take a physical space that you know well. It's key that you use a space you know well and not a made up space, because that's something else you have to remember. And our brains remember space and location much more effectively. They found that if you put someone in a room for 15 minutes and take them out, they'll be able to recall to near enough 100% accuracy the layout of that room. And you'll find this when you go to house parties. If you meet a bunch of new people in one room, you really struggle to remember their names. But if you were to meet Jeff in the kitchen and you had a conversation with Chip in the garden, then you met me at the front door, you'll find it's a lot easier to recall people's names when you've met them in different locations, because our brain, believe it or not, is like a desktop. And it likes structure, it likes organization, and it likes to associate existing knowledge to new knowledge. And that's what the memory palace does. So for example, take your bedroom. In your bedroom, select 10 pieces of furniture. Now, if you're minimalist like myself, you might only have 5. But for example, you have 10 pieces of furniture in your bedroom. You would start at your front door of your bedroom, going clockwise around your bedroom. You would label each piece of furniture clockwise 1 to 10. Then what you need to do is you need to actually practice with repetition, remembering your memory palace. So you do need to do some preparation in advance. You do need to actually consolidate and commit your memory palace to memory. And so it takes a little bit of upfront time, but I promise you, once you create one space with 10 pieces of furniture, you're then able to attach information to these pieces of furniture. Now, for example, let's take something that you've learned here today. So we'll talk about lateral eye movement. Lateral eye movement means nothing to most of you. And so what your brain struggles to do is attach this new learning to pre-existing learning. So let's say the first piece of furniture in your room is your wardrobe. And instead of touching, say that again, Chip?
It is.
There you go. How did I know? Not just a memory champion. So your first piece of furniture is a wardrobe. You're going to attach lateral eye movement to your wardrobe. Now, this is why we forget names, because names, auditory, they mean nothing, especially boring names, common names like Jordan and Jeff. Sorry, Jeff.
Chip.
The J's and the C.
The J's, there you go. Our brains can't visualize Jordan or Jeff. It doesn't mean anything to our brains. Lateral eye movement means nothing to most of you. So what you need to do is create a visual image. We are visual creatures. We remember best when things are visual, gory, sexual, humorous. We're pretty poor as human beings.
All the good movies.
All the good movies. But that's where once you understand how your brain works, you can improve your memory. So instead of attaching the word lateral eye movement to your wardrobe, I want you to create your own visual image. And that might be some googly eyes going all over the place. And for you, you can associate that to lateral eye movement. So you would put these googly eyes on the top of your wardrobe. You only need to picture that image for a fraction of a second and trust that your memory has committed that visual image to your memory. Then you move on to the second piece of furniture and you attach the second piece of information. Now, when would you use such a technique? Because it does take time to attach this information, and Chip gave a perfect example. When you are in a situation where you know you are forced to recall information. So if you are thinking about delivering a YouTube channel, and if you look back at some of my YouTube channels, you'll see that it's all one take and it seems quite fluid. And that's because I commit information to my memory palace, which allows me to kind of go off topic with Jeff and Chip. And then, okay, where was I? And it allows me to come back to my memory palace. My wardrobe, googly eyes, lateral eye movement. So it adds a sequential order to the information, giving your brain organization. It allows you to be visual. And again, you see someone and you don't say, I remember your name, but I forgot your face. You always say, I remember the face, but I forgot your name, because we're visual creatures. So if there's one thing all of you can do to improve your memory and improve your brain health, is go on YouTube and type in the memory palace.
Like it. That's awesome.
It does work.
What a great idea. What's funny though is that I'm out. I remember the cars that everybody drives, and I remember the dogs that everybody. I know their dogs' names, and I recognize the dogs, but I'll never remember the people. I was like, "Oh, you belong to that?" I had no idea, but I recognize the dog.
Well, the only thing that works for me is I say, who does that person look like, and then I name them that, and then I remember that, or I'll be like, oh, his name is Charles. Okay, that's Chucky from my my grade school days, and that's Chucky. So I remember Chucky, and then I work backwards. So it's an association type of thing too, but it's more it's less visual, but more, well, it is in a way, but. I almost forgot we're talking about XRP. Hell yeah, App School J. Look at this right here. I wanted to play this quote. Look at Van Life says.
Oops, sorry.
Van Life goes, hey, wait, who has 10 pieces of furniture in their bedroom before a moon? I don't even have 10 pieces of furniture in my van house. And if you guys look, Van Life Biker, as he's doing his van build, he's also a crypto guy, but he has a YouTube channel too. And one time I was watching it, it's like
That's awesome.
he goes and check out the TV I just installed, and he like swings it over, and it's like, wait a minute, that's Jeff and I. What the hell? I'm watching someone else's YouTube channel, seeing myself on there. That's really weird, man.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Hey.
it's all good stuff.
Hey, since we're just real quick, only because this was a great little video that was put together, a little bit of song, a little bit of music, and it's kind of a shout out to someone that's here. Hopefully, he's still here with us.
Sir John.
Let me just play this real quick. This is for Sir John. He missed it last night. We're gonna play it real quick. Hang on one second.
You see what happens when you when you publicly so we have a couple of videos for people that kind of come in here when they come in. So the Sir John was walking the streets late at one night. We picked it off his Twitter account, and then we forever play it when he comes in. He has his own sort of video to play, right? It's kind of fun things we do here, you know. It's like
that's like customer service at A1.
Well, it's just a little fun thing we do. And also too, I'd like to remind people to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime we go live. And guys, below you can look at Jordan. You can follow him on Twitter. You can also go to his website, check his website out too. Some good stuff there. And if you find the page, I'll give you guys a little secret hunt. Find the page where you can actually put the video and speed it up and see how fast you actually gauge your reading skills right now. And I was like moving it up a little bit. Can I still do it? Moving it up a little bit to see if I could read it better and better. But go find that. That's a fun little thing. It's got some great knowledge drops today, and really want to man, what a thrill. Can you believe the hour is gone already? What happened? We just got started.
It's amazing.
How did that happen?
Having fun.
When you're having fun, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. All I can say is, Jordan, if you have a link, you have some engagement website way for people if they wanted to get coaching on speed reading and this memorization technique. How do people find you?
Powerful, and I really appreciate the opportunity. So number one is I love conversation. So Twitter is something which I'm trying to be more active on, and I have a really exciting crypto project coming out very soon. Can't speak on it just yet, but that's why I'll be announcing it. But it goes without saying, any questions about what I have or haven't said today, send me a message on Twitter. Honestly, I learn more from the people I work with than they do from me. And then if you do want to get more geeky knowledge bombs, head over to studyfast.uk. And on our insights page, and I'm really proud about this, we have 10 lessons completely free on memory, from learning a new language to brain foods to music that helps you learn. And then we also have 10 free lessons on speed reading. So whether that is breaking the free habits, holding your reading speed back, to how to speed read magazines, we have it all on there as well. Unfortunately, speed reading and memory training, it's been around since the ancient Greek times, and there's not a lot of new developments, but we are constantly finding new ways to apply it. So if anything, I've hopefully motivated you to invest a little bit more time into learning how you can learn anything faster when it comes to digital assets.
Yeah, and all three of those are down below. So you can follow him on Twitter, you can go to his website, and also the TED Talk. I really recommend watching that if you want to see a really fluent speaker. And I had no idea you're 21 when you did that, and even more kudos coming your way. But thank you for doing this. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and yeah. So when we ask you back, we'll have to figure out.
Thank you, Sophie.
When you come on back in. But we had a great time talking about this, and he's also a YouTuber. I don't know if I put your YouTube channel. Darn.
No, that's fine. People find my little place somewhere.
Find him. You just go to his Twitter, you'll find his YouTube. But he puts out great crypto videos too. So watch it.
Right.
It's a great channel to subscribe to.
Yep. And Jordan, this is what happens when we have we never have any tech issues, as you can see with the little bit of issue that we had today. But this is typically what happens.
That happens sometimes, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know that we've surpassed that standard.
Yeah, and memorialized forever in a video that we can play often and annoy people. It's just fantastic. I can only imagine if you're listening to this on the podcast, you're like, what is that? Why? What is the hell's that playing all the time? You know, and who's this crazy guy singing? You know, stuff like that.
With some funny comments. We don't understand. Why is this person singing? Why do you keep playing somebody singing walking around the streets at night? It's hilarious. But
It's character building.
It was fantastic having you on tonight. To everybody out there, we do stream 6 days a week, Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This Saturday is no different. So today's Thursday. I can't believe it. We're off tomorrow night. So we'll see you guys back here on Saturday. And Jordan, hang in there with us while we do the out, and then we'll talk to you offline here in 1 second. But to everybody else, it was a pleasure. The smartest people in the crypto space right here on the chain.
Yeah, you want one closing note, give us some positivity.
Life is suffering. So find beauty in every single moment you can. If that means stroking a cat on the street, to appreciating that you have all your limbs, whatever it is, appreciate any moment. Chaos will come into your life. So stop operating at 40%. Go towards the things that cause discomfort, because you're going to have to prepare. You're going to have to prepare because life is suffering, but that means you can find beauty in the smallest things.
Well said. And we'll get out of here. Hang around, Jordan. See you guys in the next one, guys.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.